Changing careers at 55, is it a death knell for your retirement plan? Let's talk about it this week here on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Hey everybody, welcome into the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with Phil and I as we talk investing, finance, and retirement. And Phil, I'm creeping up on 55. I could jump in the car and crank up some Sammy Hagar. I can't drive 55.
There you go.
Which would be fun. But I'm creeping up on the actual age of 55. And there's a lot of people who feel like, hey, I want to make a career change or I want to do something dramatic, burnout setting in, whatever the case is. Is it a death knell for retirement? So let's talk about it this week. How you doing? You doing all right?
Doing good.
Yeah. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Good.
Wrapping summer up. Got one more trip planned. So
nice. Do you get people asking you this question? Do you get people coming in saying, hey, I'm thinking about this. What does it do?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally. And I mean, it's one of those things. If it's a client, for sure, let's talk about it before you do it. If we still a client, I'd rather you call and say, hey, I'm thinking about, than give me a call and say, I did this, whatever it is. So,
but
I mean, it kind of depends on the scenario, definitely not now you ruined your retirement, you're changing careers at 55. Sometimes it's not a choice,
Sure. I mean, that's true.
That's true. More often where I run into this scenario with a prospective client or clients is that, maybe they were planning on working to 60, 65, but they got that proverbial pink notice that, hey, your job is no longer needed.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We're downsizing, whatever it happens to be. And now you're in this position and you weren't really planning on being.
Right. So. Okay. Well, we got an email question that had come in. So just kind of got us talking and thinking about it a little bit. So basically the gentleman said, look, I've had a successful career. But I'm considering, doing something different. I want to change the pace. Now he's got a couple of things he was pondering in their trades. And I'm like, right now, if you're thinking about switching to the trade industry, kudos, because we have a massive shortage of tradespeople. And you probably would not be hurting your retirement too much because, they make good money and they're in high demand. However, let's talk about a few of those things. His biggest question is, I don't want to mess up my retirement. So what financial matters should I be thinking about if you want to make a big career change in my mid-50s? So that's kind of what spawned this conversation. So from your experience, Phil, what are some of the biggest things that you would want to say to somebody who's thinking about either A, going out into business for themselves, or B, just changing a career, wherever you want to start?
Yeah. So, I mean, this scenario is much different because you're in control, right? I mean, in this gentleman's situation, I mean, they're making the decision of, hey, I'm getting burned out. I'm looking at doing X, Y, or Z. Perfect.
Right.
That's a great opportunity to let's run some numbers, let's talk this through before you did it. So you didn't get forced into the position. So, so, I mean, it really depends on their scenario. You've got to look and see financially, where are you at today?
Do we start with, emergency fund? Do we start there?
Well, yeah. I mean, make sure you've got an emergency fund to help carry you through. And that's kind of the thing to look at as you're going into this is, okay, so what is this career change? Are you just going from, job A to job B where it's still a salary or, a more known type of number so we can plan on, hey, I'm stressed out. I need to make this change. I was making 200. I'm only going to make 100, whatever it is,
Right.
But it's still a very known, number that we can plan for. I mean, that's a different scenario. Run the math out to see, okay, does it work? You're retiring potentially. I mean, I would almost treat this kind of like a semi-retirement then, potentially.
Sure.
A few years early, does it still work? Now if you're looking at going into the trades, it kind of depends on what your vision of that is. I mean, if it's as an employee, then it's not as much of a risk, quote unquote.
That's a big factor, right?
It's a more known number.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going from a career salary job to I'm starting my own plumbing business.
Yeah, that's a totally different ballgame. And I mean, I have had clients that have done that. Hey, I'm burned out. I've always wanted to, whatever it is.
Right.
Be a plumber, do something in the trades, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So. That's a totally different scenario because, Now you're starting your own small business from scratch, and that's a tough thing to do and takes capital.
Well, the
You know,
temptation is probably going to be to access a retirement account to
yes.
maybe pay for some of that. Yeah.
And that is going to be the biggest danger you have at that stage for a lot of reasons. I mean, number one, the tax hit alone, to take money out of that 401k, IRA, whatever it is, and the penalties, I
Right.
mean, it's just not a good idea. And even if you do take the money out, you can't get that money back in. It's not like if I take $100,000 out, I can in 5 years, once the business is doing good, roll it back in. Well, there's limitations and requirements and how money gets put back in or even into any kind of retirement account. So you've got to be very careful of doing that. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're gambling, if you want to think of it that way, your retirement on whatever this new venture is.
Well, it
So
sounds like you need a business plan if
yes.
you're going into business. Certainly would help, and then rerunning your financial numbers to kind of see what's what. Because maybe you feel like a lot of people in your area may be coming off of maybe leaving one of the automakers, and they may have a pension or they may get a severance package
Yeah.
or something. So
Yeah. I mean, this isn't, like kind of like the title is saying, it's not you can't do it, you're going to ruin your retirement. It
right,
means definitely let's rerun the numbers to see where you're at.
so you
Maybe
so you don't ruin your
so you don't,
retirement.
well, that's the whole point. Yeah. So you don't ruin
Right.
your retirement. Maybe you've done really well up to this point with, market gains, even, in your career and you're much further along financially than what you anticipated at 55,
Right.
so you could almost quote unquote retire, kind of go into this second career. And I've had a lot of clients do that where they get stressed out, burned out, either have an opportunity through a buyout or they just do it themselves and then take a lower, lesser position, just to kind of live out, so to speak, those last few years of their career in a much lower stress. And I mean, that's a big factor you have to consider too, is health is an asset, right? I mean, if your current job and career is killing you, so to speak, and I mean, you're
Right.
just getting burned out, it's probably not worth it, right? Reevaluate the numbers to see, hey, I need to do something. Something's got to change. I've got to cut back, change into something different. So there's a lot of factors that play into this. But the end of the day, it comes down to rerunning the numbers, run the math to see. And, I would caution you, if you are going into anything that's self-employment, and I'm nothing against self-employment, that's me. I've been that the majority of my career.
Sure.
A lot of benefits, pros and cons to it. It's
You
like I
just said a
said,
key word.
it
You
takes
just said a key
capital
word
and
there,
there's
Phil.
all sorts of things to consider. So, yeah,
Sorry, not to cut you off, but you said
yeah,
a key word: benefits. Did
right.
you consider that?
Well,
Like,
that's the other side of it too. Health benefits. I mean, you're
yeah.
55, so I don't know if you're married. I mean, if you're married 55, you've got another 10 years for
Can
you
you
and
go
your
to the
spouse
spouses? Right.
before you get to Medicare, or yeah, so does your spouse work? Okay. Do they have benefits? Can you switch there?
Yeah.
Benefits are a huge factor when it comes to even early retirement. Just to throw a number out there that's pretty realistic, you're talking for a couple in their, I would say, mid to late 50s. I mean, not a great plan, going to be, 6, 7, 8,000 or more per person out of pocket.
Mm.
You're probably talking 15 to 1,800 a month through the marketplace. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Factor that in. Yeah.
bottom line is you got to look at, hey, what is it going to cost, right? From a healthcare standpoint, that, hey, I had these benefits through work and I was only paying 300 a month. Well, now all of a sudden you're talking, 15, 1,800. That's a significantly higher number. And it probably has a higher deductible if something happens. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into, what this looks like. And in talking about benefits too, I mean, so you're at your job, you probably had a 401k, maybe with a match, all these other components that you're self-employed. Well, it's you, right? So you're the company, if it has the profit, can make the match. And again, there's a lot of components there that could be very, very advantageous to you.
For sure.
But I would say, and I don't know this gentleman's scenario. I mean, if it is self-employment,
That seems to be his radar. Yeah.
yeah, think about it hard and make sure you've got a good, viable plan. And whatever your anticipations of income and that happens to be, cut it in half. because you're better to err on the conservative side going into
Great
this,
point.
because I mean
Yeah.
businesses, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great point.
I forget what the stats are, but it's like 75-80% of businesses go out of business in the first 5 years,
Yeah. No,
just
that's a
because they
great
run
point.
out of money. They
Yeah.
they didn't have a good plan, whatever the case is. So you don't want to risk your career, so to speak, your retirement,
Hmm.
in those later stages, because you had this whim of, hey, I always wanted to do whatever it is. And that's awesome. I don't want to discourage people from their visions, but go into it eyes wide open, run the numbers. If you're married, have a discussion with your spouse, make sure they're
Well,
on the
yeah,
same
you got
page.
to start there. I think you got to have that person on board. Otherwise, you're really fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah. Honey, you guess what I did?
Yeah.
I quit my job and
Yeah.
we're going to open up an ice cream store or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what
Right.
your vision, he's talking
Right.
about the
Yeah.
trades, whatever it happens to be. Yeah, just
Definitely
make
don't do
sure
that
you're on
without
the
talking
same
to them.
page. So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and because you got to have a support system. So if you're talking action
mhm,
steps, right?
yes.
So support system would be a great place to start. Obviously, second would be to run your numbers again.
Yep.
See if your emergency fund. Maybe you go from that. Maybe you've been working. You're going from that 3 to 6 month standard to maybe 12 months. Maybe you need to
Right.
get 12 months worth of emergency fund put together, Phil, before you go. So that
And I
kind of
mean,
stuff.
it's probably even more than that, because
Okay.
that might just be to pay your normal living expenses. But if you're running a business or starting a business, there's a lot of capital up front to even get it going.
Yeah.
I mean, customers don't just come, you've got to advertise to get it. I mean, there's all these different components that play into that.
The Tax Smart Retiree is your comprehensive guide to mastering tax efficiency for a flourishing retirement. You will find indispensable advice and actionable strategies designed to enhance tax savings, maximize Social Security benefits, protect against market volatility, and develop a customized retirement plan. To get your free ebook, click the link in the show notes of today's episode and download your copy of the Tax Smart Retiree right now.
And maybe you are paying for that with a severance or something else. There's
Right,
lots
yeah.
of different pieces we've talked about, but lay that all out. If we're talking action steps, definitely lay all those pieces out and start checking these boxes before you get too put the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there could be a pension in play. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we don't know yet in this scenario.
Biggest piece of advice not to do though, don't
Don't,
mortgage
yeah,
a retirement account.
yeah, don't take money out of the retirement account to pay for this. If you can't do it without that,
Hmm.
then I would be very, very cautious to do it, because you're potentially gambling your future retirement on this opportunity, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And
I guess I said mortgage the retirement account, but maybe don't second mortgage the house either.
well, I mean, if you're going to do anything, that would be a better option because of the tax consequences.
Okay.
The challenge with the retirement account is that it's taxable. There's penalties on it. And the more you take, I mean, it starts driving you potentially up that tax bracket too. So,
And you're not getting any return. So
and you're not getting return. Well, the argument would be, oh, I'm investing in my business. And I mean, this is gotta love them, right? Small business owners. I'm one of them, right? It's like, oh, I keep investing. My business is my retirement.
oh no, I know, I get it.
One of
Yeah.
those things. So,
Yeah.
which is, hey, I understand that, but it can't be your only retirement. You need to have outside sources, because
Right.
you don't know what's going to happen to that career, that company, that whatever.
Well, starting that at 40 versus 55 is a different animal too. So
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You're kind of at the later stage of that game that
well,
it takes a lot of planning.
I guess it's as risky. Well, maybe more risky, but I guess if you want to make the risk analogy, it's like doing some major kind of market investing or something like that later in life, and not really and sacrificing too much. We talk about it all the time, right? Don't go get a bunch of crypto or something like
Right.
that with more than you can afford to do. Don't say, oh, I'm going to take 20% of my my solid portfolio that's working on me and dump it into something risky, oil ventures or something like that, right? Don't do that. Be smart with it. So it's the same kind of thing, right? You've got to kind of do a risk analysis of your situation.
Right. Right. Yeah. Especially if you're looking at anything from an investment standpoint. I mean, if you're just changing careers, so to speak, I would almost treat this type of scenario as, okay, I'm retired. Could
Right.
you retire at 55 and just be done?
And then just a
You know,
part-time job or whatever.
right. And if you could, then that's great. Then, but if you're, if you're in a position to say, hey, I really need to work another 10 years really to even make this plan work, and for me to retire at 65,
Okay.
and I've always wanted to be an electrician or plumber or whatever, that vision is, and I'm going to completely change careers and jump into something, especially if it's being self-employed at 55 and you're not already pretty financially secure, that's a big risk.
Yeah.
Not saying don't do it. I'm just saying before you do it, make sure you have run the math out, kind of run the worst case scenario to know, hey, if it doesn't go like I'm thinking it's going to go, find out what that looks like, and make sure you have already talked to some mentors in this career.
Sure.
To understand what it is. You're on one side of the equation, maybe looking in and saying, that these guys are, I had an electrician out the other day. I can't believe what they're charging. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I did that with the concrete guy a couple years ago.
There's a whole lot more to it than just that. So
the concrete guy came out a couple years ago. Kid was 25 years old. He had left working for another concrete place, went out on his own now, and he's just killing it. And I thought, well, kudos to him, but he also worked and apprenticed and all that kind of stuff. And, he just didn't jump right into it. So, and I mean, hopefully at 55, you're going to be smarter than this, right? So, and I'm sure this gentleman is with the question, and he just kind of posed, hey, what's some action steps? What's some things to think about? So hopefully we've given him some useful nuggets. And if you are going into business, don't forget, especially if you're going to, like I was, you mentioned ice cream shop, and we could say any kind of widget you're trying to sell. Those kinds of businesses are going to struggle tougher to me right now than the trades industry for sure.
Oh, sure.
Because we just definitely need trades. However, don't forget you got to be insured and bonded and all that kind of stuff as well.
And licensed
and all that kind of stuff. So dot your I's, cross
any of
T's.
the trades. I mean, there's all sorts of equipment and costs with any business. I mean, you have to do your research, do your due diligence, do a business plan. Work with a CPA to map this out to really understand financially how is this going to work.
Yep. So, dot the I's, cross the T's.
Yep. How am I going to get my clients customers? I mean, that's a big one. They don't just show up, even though
they don't.
The trades, we need them, but at the end of the day,
there's a lot of folks.
And if this is your first career, foray into the trades, and you don't have that experience, I mean, is somebody going to hire you if you don't? There's all these different factors.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. 20 years experience or no experience.
Right, and with the trades, you have to have, you have to get licensed. You have to work under somebody for a certain amount of time, and so it's not an easy. I was an accountant. Now I'm going to be an electrician, and
that's a great point too. Yeah.
But say I'm an electrician tomorrow. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
Not if you're going to be a quote unquote licensed electrician or whatever.
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah. Fixing your buddy's place is different. So
right.
Well, at the end of the day, get an action step, get some plans, get a business plan, or unless you're going to work with somebody else. But either way, even if you are, the biggest thing is going to be rerun your retirement scenario and numbers and what that move does to your retirement future before you take any action. As Phil said, talk with a CPA, talk with a financial professional. Reach out to Phil at philstaxhacks.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify for more content. And of course, YouTube, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and notification bell so you catch new episodes when they come out. And as always, we appreciate your time. And great question. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks so much for submitting that question in. Very cool stuff. Phil, thanks for hanging out, my friend. I will see you after Labor Day. So I hope everybody has a great Labor Day out there.
All right. You too.
We'll catch you next time here on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts.
Phil?
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.